Welcome to the Shaw Podcast Network. I'm Curtis Calloway, Director of Associate Communications, and today is a special video podcast episode. Debbie Houston is here with us, and she's the Creative Director for Residential and Philadelphia Commercial, and she's here to talk to us about color and design trends for 2016. Debbie, thank you for being here.
Thanks for asking me.
Well, since we're talking about color and design, it makes sense to actually be able to show what you're talking about, so that's why we're doing a special video episode here today. And Debbie, you're going to share with us some of the trends that your team has identified for this year. And before we dive into the trends, tell us a little bit about how you and the team are forecasting. How are you coming up with these trends? How are you identifying the trends?
Well, you know, as designers, we're always looking at everything around us. And so what we're really trying to spot are those things that we see repeatedly, whether it's color or a pattern, a texture, a concept. And so as a team, we're always out in the field, or we're looking at magazines, internet, Google searches. Once a year we get together as a team and we sort of share those things that we've been tracking. And so, again, it could be on the internet. We have our favorite websites. We subscribe to WGSN, so those would be things that we would use to see what's happening on, for instance, like trade shows. We attend trade shows, but we can't get to all of them.
Sure.
So we can use WGSN and sort of see the shows that they might go to, and they cover a lot. And then we can sort of, again, track things that way. We're really big on calling on customers, so that would be field research. And so a lot of times what we'll do, we'll put together concepts, and then we'll go out to talk to our customers, because again, we're tracking trends, but if our customers they're not quite ready for it yet, so we're going for that validation. So we're trying to push a little bit, but we also know that whatever we're tracking has got to fit time-wise.
Right, and then you take a trend that you see kind of on the horizon, and then that influences what type of products you introduce or what type of colors you introduce?
It could influence the color, it could influence the pattern. And there's some trends we track, and they may not really directly affect what we would do to the floor, but we have to be aware of them, because again, if say with textiles or other products that are going in the home or into the office, we got to make sure what we're doing makes sense. It may not be the literal translation. It's sort of like a fashion show. You see the high-end couture, but it doesn't always translate to what we buy off the rack.
Right.
So I would say the same thing about product as we're tracking trends.
Okay. Well, why don't you share your first one with us? Okay.
Well, there's 3 trends that we wanted to share. We actually identified 7 for 2016 being important, but there's 3 of them that we feel like we want to share with everybody. And the first one we call Modern Tribes. And it's really about an appreciation for other cultures, their color and their patterns. And really through travel, through media, through the internet, there's all kind of things now we're exposed more and more to different cultures. And we feel like that's really influencing how we as designers, and then we as homeowners or where we work, how we accept other patterns and cultures. Africa, Asia, the Middle East have been really strong influence on design, but we feel like South America, because of the 2016 Olympics, being in Rio de Janeiro, is going to really bring more focus in South America. And then Cuba, with some of the trade sanctions being lifted and people are able to travel, we're seeing more and more come out of Cuba. So we feel like those are going to be big influences.
I feel like with social media being as powerful it is today, you jump on Instagram, and there you see travel photos. You're inundated with people's photos or exotic places, and I kind of feel like that speaks to what you're talking about.
And I think that says it. 'Cause again, it's things you become comfortable with. And again, as you share things and your friends share things, again, you become more accepting, I think, of how those things work for you. And I think also as you look at Modern Tribes, it sort of speaks to you select those things that you love, or maybe places you've been, or even how you define who you are, and that's what you would use around you.
Cool.
So.
All right. As long as I don't have to get that face tattoo.
I know. Yeah, so that was the first trend. And the second one that we feel is really important, we call crafted. And it's a trend that's really been going on for a while, but we feel like it's going to continue to be strong. And it's really about that appreciation for the skill and artistry of the craftsperson. And then those products that they make, those unique, one-of-a-kind products. Again, you have that when you have something that's made by hand, it's like it's not perfect, but because of that, it makes it beautiful.
Right.
And so we feel like this trend really speaks to that. So, it might be irregular textures, woodworking, sort of a hand rubbed finish. Again, things that speak to craft. But I think one thing that makes it really interesting is we're finding this visual, but it's being mass produced. So how do you make that handcrafted look, but then make it into a product that multiples can buy, can buy multiples of.
So, what is the answer to that for Shaw? I know we've been doing hand scraped hardwood in the past, but how do you kind of bring that into some of our?
Well, with the hard surface, that would speak to that. As we look at what we're doing on soft surface, as you look at maybe a chunky yarn, an irregular thread up, an irregular texture within the pattern. Again, things that become more tactile. And again, they don't appear to be perfect. So.
Right. Well, they're definitely not perfect when they're introduced into my home with my boys and dogs and stuff.
So maybe a better fit.
Yeah, that's perfect for us.
Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful for sure.
Yeah, so that would be the second trend. And then the third that I want to mention, I think this is really big and I think it's also going to continue to grow, but we call it Quest for Silence. And it's really about trying to find those moments of solitude or quiet in a world where we're constantly connected. So whether you're on your cell phone or your computer. But I think studies are showing, well, I know studies are showing that that because we're always connected, it's hurting our productivity at work, and it's detrimental to your health. So it's like you need quiet time. And so we're seeing that in the office, we're seeing it in the home, we're seeing it in restaurants, in luxury hotels, but how to create an area that is quiet. And so again, it might be materials that absorb sound, it might be soft materials, again, things that suggest a quieter environment.
So I'm seeing a lot of light colors here for the Quest for Silence.
Yeah, and I really didn't get into color on the other trends I just mentioned, but as we talked to Quest for Silence, we were talking about those really soft, pale pastels, champagne, the rose gold, and then the white. And that could be like a pure white or any form. And also that white is what led us to our color of the year, which is...
Why don't you tell us about color of the year?
Okay,
There you go.
We call it White Hot, and it's really this very clean, fresh color. To me, one thing that makes white really important is it allows the texture, the form, and the shape of the other things in the space to really stand out. It's no longer really about the color. And so white also supports like metals or even other colors within a space. So if you have a shot of color, it allows that shot of color to come out. So, so again, White Hot was named our color of the year for that reason, and it supports this Quest for Silence.
Well, it's certainly beautiful. My home does not look like that.
No,
but it
mine
is,
doesn't either.
I think my home falls under the Lego trend because that's how it seems to be decorated now with two young boys. But the white is certainly stunning, and it has a calming effect. Just looking at these images, I want to go and just be there and unplug.
And it can be casual or it can be luxurious. So that's another thing.
Exactly.
It meets a lot of different trends and styles.
And these are just three of the several that you've identified.
There are three, we have 7 that we really had earmarked for 2016. I think it's also important to say as we talk about trends evolve slowly. So a lot of these things we've been tracking over a course of time, and we feel like we'll continue to track. So again, same with color, with pattern. Things don't start at the beginning of the year and end. So again, I think that, and it has to work that way, or the consumer's going to really be frustrated. You're trying to keep up.
Well, this is fascinating. I appreciate you coming in and speaking to us, and I know this is it's exciting that we have professionals that are out there, that are in the world, that are taking a look at the trends and the forecasts and making decisions that impact our business based on real world. So thank you for all that you do, and you and your team, and we appreciate you being on the Shaw Podcast Network.
Well, thank you, Curtis.
You're welcome. Until next time.